Chapter 4. A Dangerous Game. The ghost of his touch lingered on her arm, a phantom brand of heat and pressure. But it was the other echo, the one that had crashed into her mind from his, that had truly left its mark. For 2 days, Alara wrestled with the memory of it. It wasn't just anger she had felt from Kylan in the library, it was a dark, possessive hunger that was as terrifying as it was familiar. It was the same desperate want she had been inventing for him in her fantasies. The horrifying realization was that she hadn't been creating a feeling. She had been finding one. Her projections had been like a key, turning a lock on a door he kept bolted even from himself. And now that it was open, the bond between them was no longer a on-way path for her attacks. It was a turbulent, 12-way channel of raw, unfiltered emotion. He was in her head now as surely as she was in his. Her initial goal had been to torment him, to find a crack in his armor. Now a far more complex and dangerous ambition began to take root. If she could feel his emotions, influence his state of mind, could she steer the ship of state from the confines of her gilded cage? It was a mad thought, a desire born of desperation, but it was the only weapon she had. The obstacle presented itself that afternoon. Her handmaiden, Lyra, came to her while tidying the chambers, her face pale with worry. "There is a full council meeting today, Your Highness," she whispered, her hands fidgeting with a dustcloth. "Lord Vorleg is speaking. They say he means to challenge the Shadow Lord's policies on the new territories." Alara's blood ran cold. Lord Vorleg, the wire-bearded brute from the state dinner who had mocked her people's culture. He represented the old guard of the Iron Empire, those who believed in annihilation, not subjugation. They saw Kaelin's strategy of taking hostages and integrating conquered lands as a sign of weakness. They would rather see Lyria burnt to ash and his people scattered to the winds. Her life, her symbolic value was a direct affront to their philosophy. If Orla gained influence, her gilded cage would swiftly become a tomb. Suddenly, her fate and Kylan's were inextricably linked. His strength was her shield, his weakness was her doom. A grim resolve settled over her. She would not be a passive pawn in their brutal politics. She had a weapon, and it was time to see if it could be used for something other than torment. From her window, she could not see the council chamber, but she didn't need to. She closed her eyes, sinking into the familiar stillness of her mind. She reached for the sovereign's tether, the line that connected her to Kylan, picturing him seated on his throne-like chair at the head of a massive stone table. She braced herself for the potential backlash of his anger or suspicion. At first, she felt only his own rigid control, a wall of disciplined ice. But she pushed gently, not with an attack but with an offering. She imagined herself not as his defiant captive, but as a symbol of his new, united empire. "You are the Shadow Lord," she projected, her thought a low, steady hum beneath the surface of his consciousness. "These men see only the past, the old ways of fracture and bloodshed. But you forged a new path. You brought order where there was chaos." She felt a flicker of surprise from him through the bond, a momentary disruption in his iron control. He felt her presence, but the nature of it was different. It wasn't an assault. In her mind's eye, she saw Lord Vorleg rise, his voice a gravelly roar filling the chamber, accusing Kaelin of being soft, of allowing the Lyrian rot to persist. She felt a surge of cold, focused anger from Kaelin, but beneath it, the barest tremor of political pressure, the weight of dissent. This was her moment. She took a deep breath and changed her projection. She abandoned the political and dove straight into the personal, the secret, the undeniable truth that now existed between them. She tapped into the memory of his desire from the library, that raw, possessive hunger. But instead of using it to taunt him, she weaponized it for his benefit. "They think you are weak," she whispered down the tether, her mental voice intimate and fierce. "They have no idea what true power you hold. You take what you want, kingdoms, people." She let the next thought land with deliberate, shocking intimacy. "Me feel that certainty. That is your strength. A king who possesses what he desires is a king who cannot be challenged. Let them see the conqueror." She poured every ounce of her will into that single, potent idea, twisting the very thing that had been his secret weakness into a source of indomitable strength. She projected the feeling of absolute possession, of a victory so complete it was beyond question. Through the bond, she felt a profound shift in him. The tremor of uncertainty vanished, consumed by a surge of cold, predatory confidence. It was his own emotion, his own dark desire, but she had focused it, honed it into a weapon for him to wield. Though she could not hear his words, she could feel the change in the room through the echo of his mind. The force of his will became a palpable thing. He was no longer just defending his position, he was asserting his dominance. She felt his cold, precise logic slice through Vorleg's blustering arguments. She felt the wavering loyalty of the other lord solidify, drawn to his renewed, unshakable authority. She felt the moment of Vorlak's defeat, a wave of frustrated impotence that washed back through Kaelin's triumphant focus. The gambit had worked. Alara opened her eyes, her body trembling with the effort. Her heart was pounding, a frantic rhythm of fear and exhilaration. She had steered the wolf away from her door by whispering in his ear. The summons came an hour later, no guards this time. Kaelin appeared at her door alone, his face an unreadable mask of stone. The absolute control was back, but his slet-grey eyes held a new, unnerving light as they settled on her. "Walk with me," he commanded. It was not a request. He led her in silence, not to the library or the great hall, but up a winding stair to the highest battlements of the citadel. The wind was fierce here, whipping her silver hair across her face and tearing at her skirts. The world spread out below them, a vast expanse of jagged peaks and shadowed valleys, all under his dominion. He stopped, turning to face her, his broad shoulders blocking the wind. "In the council chamber," he said, his voice low and devoid of emotion, "Lord Vorlak questioned my right to rule." Alara's throat was dry. "I am sorry to hear that, my lord." A dark, dangerous smile touched his lips, a chilling sight. "No, you're not, because you were there, weren't you, princess? A ghost in the machine." She met his gaze, her own defiance rising to meet his intensity. "Your strength is my shield, I merely polished it." He stared at her for a long, silent moment, the wind howling around them. She expected rage, a threat, a punishment for her audacious manipulation. Instead, he took a step closer, his expression one of dark, calculating intrigue. "What you did," he said, his voice a near whisper against the wind, "was a violation of my sovereignty. An act of treason." He paused, letting the words hang in the freezing air. It was also ruthlessly effective. Her breath caught. This was a turning point, the precipice upon which their entire relationship now stood. "You have a weapon, Alara of Lyria," he continued, using her full name for the first time, the sound of it both a caress and a claim. "A weapon I cannot defend against, but one which, it seems, can be aimed. I will not have my mind be your personal playground for petty torments." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur that was more intimate than any touch. "But a private war council of two? A queen who whispers strategy directly into her king's mind? That has potential." He was not punishing her. He was not commanding her to stop. He was encouraging her. He was laying the foundation for a new set of rules in their dangerous game. The dynamic shattered and reformed in that instant. Captive and captor, victim and tormentor. Those lines dissolved into the howling wind, replaced by something far more complex and terrifying. Willing participants, partners in a secret mental affair, where the stakes were not just their bodies, but the fate of the empire itself.